Hi, my name is Robert Sapolsky. I'm a professor of biology, neurology, and neurosurgery at Stanford University. About 13 years ago, I gave a talk at Stanford on the biology of depression. Somebody taped it, and Stanford uploaded it to YouTube. And that has produced some good news, bad news. Good news is in the years since, 5 million views or more for this lecture, suggesting that it's useful. Bad news, 5 million views or more, telling you the magnitude of the problem out there with depression. Now, of course, fortunately, there have been some new advances in the field since 13 years ago, and the purpose of this lecture is, it's a sum of the 2010 lecture, it's an update on the information. Now, I'm going to make the argument throughout that depression is among the worst medical catastrophes that can overwhelm someone, and we will get to that argument in considerable detail. Sense of what we're up against. World Health Organization says that major depression is the #1 or 2 leading cause of medical disability on this planet. Millions of people. Best estimates, 15 to 18% of people will have a major depressive episode at some point. Now, worse news, about 80% of cases are never diagnosed. And of those that are, approximately 1/3 never respond to any medication. Approximately 1/3 do, but the side effects are intolerable, and about 1/3 are helped. In other words, we have massive problems with oceans of people out there with this malady who are not being diagnosed or successfully treated. About 80% of people have multiple rounds of depression, and so that as a starter, trying to address this is an important subject to look at. Now, one of the more reliable disturbing findings out there is that in each passing decade, the incidence of depression has been increasing. Okay, that may mean nothing at all. There may be all sorts of confounds. People today are more likely to admit that they feel depressed than people in the 1950s, and thus artifactually there's some more cases. All sorts of very carefully controlled epidemiological studies showing cross-culturally the incidence of the disease has been increasing over the decades. Most informatively, where it's been increasing is among adolescents. With each passing year, more teenagers being recruited into the lifelong cohort of people struggling with depression. Just so it's not purely an adolescent thing, what's been seen also is increasing risks of depression over the years, over the decades, among elderly people. Now, what you see is totally predictably who gets major depression. We will see just on the demographic level, low socioeconomic status is one of the biggest predictors. Okay, so I'm going to try to make 3 points in this lecture. 3 incredibly important points, and the first one is implicit in what I've been saying all along. Depression is a medical disease. There is this incredibly toxic pull towards people who have no idea what it's like to say, oh, come on, don't get depressed, and people come out the other end and pull yourself together and stop babying yourself and go indulge yourself. Saying that to somebody with major depression is like sitting down somebody with diabetes and say, oh, come on, what's this? Stop babying yourself with this insulin stuff. Come on, just tough it through. Depression, as we will see, is as biological of a disorder as is diabetes. As we'll see, a very different type of biology. Nonetheless, we are talking about a medical disease. Next critical point. If you learn about this and all you learn is the biology, the brain chemistry and the hormones and the genes and what's connected to what, all of that, you are never going to be able to effectively take on this disease. And the 2 parts of this lecture reflect that point. Go learn all the biology, and we've got all those multisyllabic terms down cold, and if you don't incorporate it with the we're going to get nowhere at all. Now, the third point being, why argue that this is the worst of all diseases? And this sort of revolves around this totally bizarre thing that humans do. You've got terminal cancer. You've got a crippling heart disease, you've lost a limb, whatever, and your life is obviously very constrained and very compromised. And bizarrely, people find silver linings in these things on occasions. This is when you realize how much family means to you. This is where you realize you have found your God. This is whatever. We are capable of pulling satisfaction, pleasure, reward, contentment out of the most awful circumstances on earth. Just ask anyone who came out of a concentration camp feeling like in some ways they were still glued to this person. Humans can make the best of horrible situations. We can look on the bright side. Depression is a disease where you can no longer look on the bright side. And what could possibly be worse than that? And if I had to define depression in a single sentence, I would say it's a biochemical disorder with genetic components whose primary manifestation is you lose the ability to be awed by rainbows and sunsets. So that makes for a pretty bad one. Now, just starting off, before we begin looking at the symptoms, some jargon. Yes, all of us get depressed. Everybody gets depressed in every sense. Some disappointment happens, something unrequited, whatever. And what you wind up seeing is typically come out the other end. And we heal. And what you see instead with the depression we'll be talking about today is not, oh, I've been down after this argument with a friend. For the next day, I just felt kind of mopey. This is a major biological disease that destroys people's lives. And once again, for one of the unfortunately, wow, crummy day, I feel depressed. And depression as a biological disorder, use the same term. We are only talking about this massive medical malady. Okay, so we start off before getting into biology. What does the disease actually look like? The defining symptom of depression is anhedonia. Hedonism, the experience of pleasure, anhedonia, the inability to experience pleasure. And this is what the disease is all about. Something wonderful happens, you feel nothing, it is just a flatness, it is